Welcome to another edition of Data Center Pulse. I am here in San Jose, California at the 4th Annual Data Center Pulse Summit. This is where we get our peers together to have conversations about topics that are very relevant to the community at large today. And we had 44 attendees show up, and this is the perfect size for us. And they came from a very diverse background. So we had colo providers to large telecoms to large infrastructure providers, as well as people like Microsoft and Yahoo and Salesforce and eBay, etc. And the conversations were great. So we had two topics. We did this a little bit different. In the past, we had a lot of topics that we rolled together and broke out into sessions. But we decided that the conversations are too rich for people to actually be choosing which one they wanted to be in. So we now narrowed it down to actually 3 topics. So 2 primary ones and then the top 10. And so that was the Project Mercury data center deployment that was done, as well as the Green Grid case study that was released just a couple weeks ago. And we went through the details in that. That also touched on density, it touched on containers, efficiency, and just modularity and overall multi-tier type of implementations, free cooling year-round, all those concepts. And it was really cool to watch the interaction between the people in there, because they weren't just sitting back and listening to someone present. It was very, very interactive back and forth between people that had experience with components in that, had perspectives into what they should do and what we should do, and then bringing those together and the applicability of the different concepts was great. And for me, to be able to now think back to 2009, where a lot of those concepts actually were starting at one of the first Data Center Pulse events in Phoenix, Arizona, and then now actually seeing it come to fruition in a project such as Project Mercury in Phoenix is just amazing. So the second topic was a service efficiency metric, and this was a new concept that we're proposing back out. We won't go into the details of that, but we did with the actual members, and that was to get their input. And this was, how do you measure the miles per gallon, or the top level transactions per watt for a data center, and really drive the right business discussion. So that was incredibly heated, lots of opinions in it, but we got some incredible content for it. I'd like you to hear from the actual people that are attending today on their take of what the summit was all about.
I think it's important to have this kind of gathering for data center professionals to get together and exchange their ideas. We live in different corners of the world and chat through email or mailing lists a lot, but nothing beats a face-to-face debate on the issues and airing out your viewpoints.
Yeah. I thought the conversations have really started to evolve. We're not talking about just the basics anymore. We're really starting to get into some really engaging, some really innovative conversations, which I think we've needed for some period of time. But as an industry and as a profession, we haven't progressed or haven't matured to that point. And I think now we're starting to see the fruits of those earlier conversations come to bear.
The thing that I enjoy most about the Data Center Pulse discussions is that we aren't guided by some predetermined set of unwritten and unvoiced laws of the vendor participants. And as a result, I feel like our content for discussion and contributed by our members is both more wide-ranging, but also more to the point.
Today's summit I found to be really interesting because as we looked back on the last 3 years and the evolution of the top 10 list, for me, that was a proxy of where Data Center Pulse is today. And we're really seeing the convergence of infrastructure into a unified platform discussion. Everything from how you manage all the infrastructure to the design elements. And we're still having some of the same conversations that we had 3 years ago. It's really fascinating to get into it. So the evolution of the top 10 list, to me, was where we kind of found what Data Center Pulse is all about today.
Well, partly because you're conjoining it with the Green Grid made it very convenient, but we also have a number of folks that are really data center savvy, but because of language barriers and continental barriers, don't get to attend things like this very often. So I really wanted to get them introduced to the whole process, but also all the people here, the great minds that are already a part of Data Center Pulse.
It's heated. It's cool. I actually really like how everyone is really leaned in around the efficiency and the metrics and how we can really improve the data center and make it more relevant to business. So it's really good dialogue. It's been great to learn about Project Mercury and what's going on with eBay and how they're using containers on the roof of their building. This is super cool stuff. We kind of pioneered a little bit of that, and I've enjoyed the collaboration. And I'm excited to see where you guys are going with it.
So the topics were strong. I mean, we felt very good about not only the content, but the contribution that the users make. And for us, the neat thing about the Data Center Pulse organization is it's really about the end users. And the end users are really the people that are going to make the difference in the industry.
Fantastic today. So I think what's really interesting is that you have people from all around the world, and we have very, very diverse areas that we work in, but we have the same goal, and we have very, very similar problems that we're approaching. And what it does, it validates that we should go faster and further forward than we have before. And a great session, very good session.
Really impressed, as always, with the topics because they really hit the mark. And as we went through looking at the past years and the way that they've been modified as we look at the current year events, they're really hitting on the target where everyone is dealing with those kind of issues.
I think it was very relevant. I mean, some of these things we've run up against ourselves, and I think that it's good to see a different type of service leveraging similar technologies and coming up with different solutions, different use cases, and having a different experience. And I think there's really neat lessons learned that came out of that as far as optimizing around busway sizing and things like that are relevant to all users throughout the data center community.
Key takeaways, I have to come back next year, for sure. That's the key takeaway. I have a number of great contacts that I met here, some people from Oracle and Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and you guys from eBay. My takeaway is to continue networking in the Pulse and not wait till next year to move forward with things.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Key takeaway, gosh, which one? I think there are several. I think we definitely have to have further conversation about some of these subjects because it's obvious that it's not as simple, for example, like with the top 10, it's not as simple as just making a blind statement or a very specific statement, and that's clear. Our world is getting more complex, and so our actions and the areas that we focus on have to be able to show that. So my takeaway is find out ways that we can have further conversations about these subjects and really get more people involved in those conversations.
It's not really technology oriented so much as it's the key takeaway is the fact that what the role that Data Center plays in the industry, Data Center Pulse plays in the industry, is still critical. And there's still a large gap out there that people are hoping to find ways to get answers for, and Data Center Pulse is really that platform to do that.
Well, I think the key takeaway from us is that we need to be adaptable. Users are really interested in hybrid solutions, and even as a co-location provider, we know that if we are going to qualify for to be the provider for our customers, we need to be able to accommodate container solutions, we need to be able to provide hybrid solutions, we need to be able to accommodate specifications for many users, and that requires flexibility.
I think the key takeaway today of all the two big subjects were the efficiency metric. I think that's a real good thing that we need to continue taking forward, and I think there's other groups in the industry that are working on the same thing.
Okay.
And I think, it's a hard problem, but if we just keep working on it, we'll get there.
Really key takeaway, I mean, I was really interested coming into this, facing some like liquid cooling issues, what we're going to do with those kind of builds. And in general, just the topics as we went over our top 7 or top 10 as they'll come out. Really, we're dealing with all of those issues. So I'm really seeing the market is dealing with the same thing. So they really hit the mark up and down the line.
Key takeaway from today is where does Data Center Pulse go from here? I think over the last 3 years we've kind of seen an up and a down and a cycle, and that's normal. But I think today we're at a real pivotal point in the data center design part of the industry. We're seeing a lot of interesting players come to bring their there's an openness that didn't exist 3 years ago.
Sure.
eBay, participating, Facebook in their open data center projects. Even the concepts that I think that like OpenStack and OpenFlow. I mean, we are basically taking the internet infrastructure and opening the kimono to everyone, so that everyone can, kind of build from this utility. Data Center Pulse sits in the middle of that as the user group of the world. this is the body of people that want to learn from that kind of open standards. Now is the time for Data Center Pulse to take that thought leadership role and really kind of drive it. And I think 2012, we've got an opportunity to do that.
So thank you very much for watching this episode, and stay tuned for additional episodes of Data Center Pulse.